and welcome to today's Zoom Satsang at the Haidakhandi Universal Ashram. And I'm Ramloti, and as always, really grateful for this time to be together. It's not quite the same, but it's almost like meeting at one of the ashrams around the world, particularly Haidakhandi, which many will do, I think, at Spring Navratri. So we're grateful. So today's topic is very appropriately, as we're moving into Spring Navratri in a couple of weeks, the Divine Mother and Navratri. So it might include stories of times when people were at Navratri with Baba, with Muniraji in India at their own ashram, or also just wisdom or feelings about the Divine Mother. So obviously this is very close to my heart and I'm excited. So I'm going to hand it over to our co-host, Mr. Pujari. What would you like to say to begin with? You have to unmute too, dear.
What to say? Happy to be with you all. Well, the last sloka of what we sing in the arti is for me so touching, and I have many deep experiences with that one when we sing the Haidakhandi, which ends like Amba Amba Jai Jagadamba, Sarva Rupa Eka Tu Hi Amba. So that sloka tells it all in one way, no? Sarva Rupa Eka means all sarvas, all form is one, and it is you. So what we are perceiving, it's all the mother, and that's the ultimate, I think, wisdom that we want to get to, that we see only the Divine Mother or the manifestation as a divine play of consciousness through the feminine forms. Of course, you gave some beautiful input that also Haidakhandi 3 has the 3 aspects of what shall I say, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati. And so these play around, and to go a little bit more into that already, because again, somebody wrote a very beautiful article about it, because it also relates to the mantra that goes with it. Aim, Hrim, Klim, Chamundieviche. So Aim, Hrim, Klim is also the 3 beach mantras for the 3 aspects of Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Kali. So it all refers, we try to understand that the whole world is a play of these 3 forces of creation, sustenance, and destruction. And that is, we can see it in the feminine way as the Divine Mother constantly birthing this consciousness in new forms and new shapes through the yugas. And now on the Kali Yuga, it looks not so lovely often. It is a struggling humanity. So we have a very difficult reality to digest in our heart from what's going on. It's almost like adharmic at the moment. So we are going through a very painful but that's also the play of the mother, and it probably will only change if we get further and further out of the Kali Yuga. Then it will automatically become a more auspicious human drama. Uday is coming in. But let me stop there, because maybe there is more interesting things to say about it, because I'm not much of a scholar or a thing, but just to start with a little bit about the mother. This was the first thing. Later, I would love to share some more things about Navratri. But to start with the input, let's stay with how we perceive the world, or how do we perceive Maya, or how we perceive the mother. I know Uday, he's always doing a lot of beautiful service during Navratri, explaining a lot about the Divine Mother. And I don't know if you were listening to what I was saying, but maybe you have something more to add to that. How the Aim Rim Klim Chamundi Viche, how that like also is the beach mantra for the different parts of how the mother is playing out the form.
Yes. You want me to speak for a few minutes?
Yes, please, please.
Okay. Bole Baba ki jai. So just in case, I think most of you may already know this, but in the Indian Sanatan tradition, Sanatan means which is eternal. So there are three paths of devotion that we follow. And one is following the path of the Shiva, it's called Shaiva. The other is Vaishnav, the path of Vishnu. And the third one is called Shakti, Shakti, power, and that is the path of Divine Mother. And what Pujari was referring to, the Bij mantra of Mother, Eng, Reng, Kleng, Chamundaye, Viche, this encompasses three forms of Divine Mother. One is Kling as in Kali, and then the next one is of Mahalakshmi, and the third one is of Mahasaraswati. And in this, there are a couple of great sort of books which have been written on this tradition of Shakti, this Divine Mother's tradition. And one is one that we sort of read every day during Navratri and rest of the year. The Durga Shaptasati, it's called Durga Shaptasati. It is also called Shaptasati. It's also called Devi Mahatmyam. Mahatmyam means to describe the different, beautiful, splendorous forms of Divine Mother. So that's Devi Mahatmyam, which is also called Devi Shaptasati, which we read. So Shaptasati means 700 shlokas. So these three have been written with 700 shlokas. And in this text, also in Devi Bhagavatam is the reading which we do during Navaratri 9 days, where Shastri Ji explains the different sort of phases of this Devi Mahatmyam, Devi Bhagavat actually. So in that, there are three forms of Devi, as I said, Kali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati. Now, Kali is the base form of Devi, and in each of these three episodes, Divine Mother encounters a demon and she slays the demon. But as all sort of old, philosophical literature is very, very deep, and the main meaning lies in the subtlety, which is below the surface. And all these demons who come by various different names, one name which you must have heard and seen the image of Mahishasur, the demon which comes from the black, animal which mother slays the head. It's called Mahish. Mahish and Asur. Asur means a demon, and mother is called Mahishasur Mardini, the slayer of Mahishasur. So in the first episode, mother slays one demon. In the second episode, mother slays Mahishasur. And in the third episode, mother slays Shumbha Nishumbha. Now, each of these demons are actually representative of our own inner imperfections. So they are not some demon, hydra-headed things. Actually, this is for deeper reflection. When we go deep into these sort of texts, we understand that, in our own journey from being a human being into uniting with the Godhead or Divine Mother, there are many lifetimes of that journey happens. And during those lifetimes of journey, we raise our levels of consciousness. There is a little echo coming from somewhere. Anyway, so all these demons which we encounter in these texts actually represent our own human frailties. And some of them, I'll not go into all of them, are greed, selfishness. It's called me and mine. There is a demon called, like somebody who's blinded by smoke. So there are different demons with different names, and even the names represent the human frailties. And when we study these texts in depth, we realize that these books were not created as an entertaining form. They were created to give us lots of different lessons, but one of the lessons is that Divine Mother is very generous and forgetful, and even when she slays a so-called demon, in a symbolic form, what she's doing is she's slaying our own imperfections, and in the process making our journey forward a journey towards perfection. So Divine Mother also is somebody who is called in these same books Bhukti, Mukti, Pradayani. So Bhukti means bhog, to be able to enjoy the richness of the world, enjoy what is good in this world. So Mother gives us that blessing. But the biggest blessing that Mother gives is mukti. That means liberation. So she is the only sort of goddess who gives both the bhukti and the mukti. You have other gods who can give you liberation, but it is only Mother, Divine Mother, in the form of Lakshmi, who gives us that to enjoy the splendor of the world and all the kind of blessings of the world, as well as she also blesses us ultimately as we continue to follow her path. She gives us the liberation. So with that, I rest my case and I can come back and answer anything if you want later. Bole Baba ki jai.
Bole Baba ki jai.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dai. Beautiful.
Yeah. Also, what comes to me, what we could address in this meeting is how we saw in Babaji these aspects, because although Babaji it looks like a male form, but I'm sure those who've met him see that this was not really a man or a woman or anything human. And yes, we've seen Babaji, like the basic was love and consciousness in Babaji. Love of the most beautiful quality of the feminine. And Babaji expressed that in a million ways, with every person in a perfection mirroring where we are with our love. And yes, the beauty of Babaji was that he could shift in milliseconds from Kali to Bhairav to Hanuman to all aspects of the Divine Mother. And that is something that I would also like to bring up from, if people have something to share about how they've experienced Babaji as Kali or as Lakshmi or as Saraswati, because he was everything, embodying all these divine beauties to my taste. And I think with many of us that resonates.
Yeah, here, Ramon, I've heard a lot of your stories, which really felt really were expressing the motherly, loving aspect of Baba. Do you have one that comes to mind as we talk about our loving Baba?
Yeah, I know the second time I came to India after going and selling all my beehives and my bee trucks and all these things and coming back to India. When I got to the ashram, Babaji wasn't there. He was in Rajasthan. And so Swami just said, oh, you just wait here. And I just couldn't, so I just walked off and got on a train, and Baba was in this little town that, or was supposed to be in this one little town. And so I got on the train and we went past this little town, and then I got on another train the other way. And then to get in that area of Rajasthan, it was so remote that you just kind of stood out in the middle, and the train stopped when they saw you, like a bus kind of. And so then we went back towards the other town, and then there was a little stop, and I heard singing in the distance, Om Namah Shivaya. And I just knew that Babaji was there. So I got off the train again and followed the celestial sound, and there was Babaji. And I just, it was, I don't know, I just like everything just released, and I was so happy to see him. And he literally just pulled me up into his lap. And I'm kind of a tall person, so it's like this big Westerner, his lap. It was incredibly sweet. And just, he was like totally like my mother, and just whispered to me, and during the whole, probably another half an hour of the satsang, I just was in his lap until it was time to get up. And it was towards the end of the day, and then we went up on the roof, and then that night I slept in front of Babaji's room, and it was just one of my treasured moments. It's just the two of us were there, and we sat and talked, and there was a big lightning storm in the distance, and we just watched it, and then it was coming towards us with a rainstorm, and then for a couple hours, and everybody else was asleep. It was really sweet. Then the rain came, and Baba went in the room, and I slept under the awning of the room. Oftentimes when we would travel, I would sleep at Babaji's door. And that was really indescribable, I guess.
I really appreciate your stories and reminding me of how open you often were to his love. I think I was filled with a lot of fear and concern if I was doing it right, or if I would get in trouble or thrown out or something like that, rather. And it reminds me of the song that we sing, well, I sing daily when I wake up, Mother, is Jago Jago Ma. And we sang it yesterday after the fire ceremony. And these little girls were there. And after we finished, I said, would somebody like another song? And the little girl said, can we sing Jago Jago Ma again? And so we went into the discussion of that, of course, Mother, and I told them the story of Sasaji when I was asking, we were building, the mandir and where Mother's bed was going to be and everything. I asked Sasaji, how big should the bed be? He said, oh, it doesn't matter, Ramloti, it's only symbolic. If Mother ever fell asleep, the whole cosmos would end. And so I told the little girls, there were, I don't know, 7 and 9 or something, there were 3 of them. And they were all like that. But I explained that it's really our openness to love that falls asleep or gets scared, runs away, hides. And it's really about opening to that love in our hearts. So thank you for sharing that.
And if I may add to what Ramloti shared, that I think study of our texts and being familiar with the kind of general theme of these stories about Babaji and Divine Mother, they tell us two things, that they're always extremely merciful and love is supreme. You know, for them, love is supreme. And even when, like Pujari referred, how Babaji could transform in a second from being most loving to being really severe, you know, whom one look at you and you'd freeze. Even that part, when it seemed like he was very severe or Divine Mother was severe, it is actually an act of great love, because that is how Babaji would correct your actions or your thought or your karmas of the past life. So anything that a divine entity does can only be divine. It seems different at our earthly level, but their purpose is certainly just one, and which is to lift us from our present state, which still has some ignorance, some darkness, to a state where we become completely pure, where we can merge with the divine entity itself. Thank you.
I think that's really super important. That's the whole thing in a nutshell right there, is that, and also what Ramloti said, that Baba is never, and Mother's never away from us. We just don't notice sometimes, and or most of the time probably, but it's always there. and also what I was saying about when Babaji was firm, it was completely love. I never felt anything but love from Babaji, even or what. If he was firm or stern, it was just listen to this, listen to what you're doing yourself. But the love was always there, is always there. There's no was about it. Is always there.
There's a line in the Devi Bhagavatam that says, the suffering in a man's life is only the Devi subtly calling you. So when it's a tough time, it's often the time we wake up the most and listen. Sometimes Baba, for me, Baba gave me many cues. I think I've told the story of Vrindavan for Guru Purnima with my children in 1981. And Baba, I asked Baba, may we go? And he said yes. And then the next time, every time I saw him, he would say, you go Vrindavan? And I said, yes. And he said, you like hot? You like really hot? And I would say, well, I don't really like hot, but I want to go with you, So he was subtly telling me that it's probably not the best place to take your little children right when you got to India, because it's going to be very hot, laborious. And indeed, they both got totally sick. It was, it was pretty horrible. So for me, Baba would tap me on the shoulder and continues, you hear that little inspiration. Maybe this would be a better choice, and I find that Baba's like that. But then other times, because I don't listen, it takes the stick over the head before I can really hear. So I think that's sort of the way I do things sometimes. And so Baba's going to subtly or not so subtly help us on our path. And at that point, that was not a good choice.
Yeah, I think it's for all who met Babaji. The amount of care he had for us was beyond imagination. We haven't met anybody who had so much love and care for us, who would also be able to look so deeply into us that he looked beyond everything that we would know about ourselves. You could see that he saw many more layers in my case, all lifetimes, forward and backward. It's beyond my imagination what Babaji would see in a person or in the whole scenery. And that for many is like, he saw so many layers of karmas and lifetimes and possibilities, and he could really purify and change us. That's also why I had sometimes very harsh treatments and hard words from him, and other times very loving, the most soft female voice of how he cared for me, or put his hands on me, or how he touched me, or made a jacket for me. All expressions of his feminine love come to my heart at the moment. That how he showed love to me that my own father have never shown me in that way. And that was Babaji was magically beautiful, and he did it with everybody, naturally and automatically. And that showed his divinity beyond any doubt to anybody. This is how is he able to move like this, with like just a loving, compassionate being, but also with a fierceness and a discrimination and a beyond imagination. That is there's also what when Hanuman was saying that he was on Babaji's lap, I always remember how Shami Kapoor was sitting for darshan in front of Babaji's in the temple in Haidakhandi, and he saw that Babaji was playing with a little Western boy in his lap. He said, "Oh, I wish I could be in that position, or just to be in Baba's lap." And Babaji called him over, and this man is 150 or 200 kilos, and Babaji just picked him up and put him in his lap. And of course, that is for Shami Kapoor also. It was such a comforting experience, and he was already incredibly devoted to Baba. But we all became Baba's children. We all, important or unimportant, big or small, male or female, doesn't matter. Everybody felt so loved by Babaji. Like Baba was our father and our mother. What we sing in art, he had that capacity to bring us home, that we can relate to Baba as a father, as a mother, as a friend, and the best of everything. There's no better father, no better mother, no better friend as Babaji. So yeah, it's beyond words. What we speak about, this divine being, beyond words, beyond words.
And I'm quite certain that probably everybody here has felt that, whether you're physically with Babaji or not. Times when you're, particularly it seems like when we are in trouble or suffering or something, we call out to Baba or Mother or the divine, whatever word we use, help me, help me. And if we're really sincere, I suspect, I know I do from sometimes, just feel Baba's arms around me, holding me. And so it is not limited to being in a physical form with when he was actually in Haidakhandi. It's moment to moment that I certainly call out to him and feel his arms around. I was remembering, Claire, you had a story that I don't think you got to share one time. Is that a pertinent story at any point in this satsang that you would like to share, Clara?
I could share a little bit.
Hiraman, you should mute while Clara is speaking.
Yeah.
Great.
Is it okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Yeah. Well, Ramloti, you're kind of setting it up. But
I didn't intend, I promise.
it's okay. No, it's good. It's good for me to share more. Well, yeah, like you were saying, there was a time of really great suffering for me as a child. Hey, babe, can you turn it down more? Thanks. And I was just really wanting to go home, to something familiar. My family was not feeling so yeah, it was feeling very foreign to me. So I covered myself up with leaves, and I was just, I grew up in Alaska, so it was really cold. It was in the winter, and I was just ready to go back, and I was laying there and kind of going through the beginning stages of hypothermia, and then it was like the feeling of the earth breathing me, I felt the oneness of being just completely held and enveloped, and yeah, just completely loved. And it reminded me of who I really am and where I belong. And I knew in my bones that it was the mother, the divine mother, just, coming to me. But I didn't have words, or it really didn't fully land for me that was the mother until I was in Haidakhandi, and what I felt being there in the consciousness of that place. I've been in a lot of raw, wild, potent places in the earth, and that being in Haidakhandi is just my favorite place. And so that just lined up for me when I realized, oh, that was the divine mother in retrospect, the feeling of what I felt being there. Just, yeah, I wasn't really thinking about how I would share that, but hope that can soothe hearts, and it's definitely been the balm for me. So.
Thank you, Claire. So beautiful. Deanna, did you want to share something?
I feel like I'm in Haidakhandi after that story. Thank you, Clara.
Yeah.
For me, being physically with Babaji was always the beloved protective father. And that was, according to my childhood, my karma. He obviously gave to each one the love in the way they needed, whether it was mother, father. But when I was there, he let me know that Durga was the goddess that I should follow. So she was into protection, strength, motherhood, and combating evil. And I would not realize till later, thank you, that through my lifetime that I would be protecting my family, my patients, and that really Divine Mother for me has always been, since a child, the forest and the trees. And today, after this Zoom, I'll be going out and putting tape on my maple tree to protect them from the gypsy moths. So when my children were 3 and 4.5, I took them to India, and Dana, who was a very strong little girl, guided her that she have a mundan. And the first time she went up to Prananda Babaji, and she had a scarf over her head, he pulled it off and he named her baby Kali. And everybody laughed, and they were laughing lovingly, but he was working on egos even at that tender age, because she would tell me years later how embarrassed she was. But Kali definitely stuck with her, because this is what she did. Can you see it? She had Kali tattooed on her back in her 20s. And so just a few months ago, I was reading something about the goddesses, and it said that Durga was fighting the evil, like Umbai was sharing, and she wasn't succeeding. So she birthed Kali out of her third eye and Kali won. So I called Dana on the phone and I said, sweetie, I never birthed you out my vagina. I birthed you out my third eye. And she said, Mom, I'm on speakerphone and the electrician is here. So the Divine Mother is always with me, my family, my patients. I would mother anybody. I have a 50-year-old that calls me grandma. So the Divine Mother, yes, that is Babaji and Haidakhandi for sure. I hope in this lifetime that we get to go back.
Mm.
Thank you.
Maybe also I would like to go a little bit in the topic of Navratri, which was also part of this satsang, if people wish to share something about it. But the whole Navratri is like a worship of the Divine Mother. And what to say, it is such a intense festival. What even in Babaji time, one time he sent me to Chilianole to prepare for the Navratri and to take care, paint the ashram and clean up many things and take care of the temple even. But that was all not so important. Everything was focused about Babaji. It didn't have much importance, the Navratri, for me at Babaji's time. But after, with Muniraji, it became actually more and more important. And I also started to experience the depth and the beauty of having that 9 days of tapasya, you can say, of practice and concentration on the divine. And I remember in those days, 85, 86, also with Raghu and Karku serving Muniraji, we were intensive on our sadhana. We would eat only fruit salad in those 9 days, and that we did for several years. We ate only fruit salads and we were serving and helping and doing the mantras and just serving these 9 days away. But the intensity builds up if we are able to concentrate this 9 days from morning to evening through all our senses. We see divine forms, we see all devotees dressed up, we see murtis, we see Shastiji, we see these divinities all around us. We live in a beautiful area in Haidakhandi with the river and nature. It's for the senses such a beautiful thing. For the ears, we hear the sounds of the bhajans, of the mantras, of the river. And of course, we taste the food, we smell the incense and the bandaras, and we get all intoxicated with divine vibrations, very different as if we are in Moscow or in New York. You get different vibrations. But what it does, that it creates that connection, that we start to feel so comfortable in this divine environment. At the same time, I must say, often some obstacles will come up during this period, some heavy negativity or judgment about whatever inside or outside will also take place. But the concentration of these 9 days will pull us through that purification process. Whatever it is that is being brought up is also prasad, as you can say, even traumas can come up and be digested during those 9 days. But the beauty is in the concentration, that the steady concentration kind of liberates you from your thinking mind. You come in a divine, automatic, devotional, meditative state. And that you just, after the first 3 days, often in my process, the first 3 days is often just and get the rhythm. And then the magic starts to show, that you come so much in the moment and becoming more and more just present to whatever happens. There's no strain. You don't have to perform something special, or you're just following that stream of devotion. And often with a lot of mantra singing and devotional practice and meeting with the people quietly, or even in words have satsang. It's such an inspiring time that through that you see slowly that the goddess is everywhere, in nature, in all the beings, in the prasad, in the murtis. It is that intoxication that takes place during a Navratri, which still makes it very auspicious for me to participate. I think once we are in that divine place and everything comes to peace, we see that everywhere in the whole universe. But as a practice, as a medicine to purify ourselves, to come back to that original experience that the world is a divine play, and we not really have to exist to experience that. It's better if we are out of the way, we just naturally melt with that divine play, and that happens or can happen quite easily during a Navratri for this 9 days. So some input on Navratri. I don't know, is Mina still here? I don't.
She had to get off for a little. I think she had something else she had to do. I don't know if she'll be back or not. I just
okay.
Yeah.
Navratri was also, yeah. Probably Uday has lovely words to share about what is a Navratri all about, the Divine Mother in Navratri.
Okay, so I'll give you the kind of the context of the structure of Navaratri. So Navaratri, of course, means 9 nights of devotion, and as we have all known, that Babaji right from the beginning started this 9-day Navaratri. He obviously put a lot of value into the Divine Mother's sort of concept for us to know who Divine Mother was. And Navaratri is devotion of the 3 forms of Devi as Kali, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati. So the first day of Navaratri is a form of Kali. The second day is another form of Mahalakshmi. The third day is a form of Mahasaraswati. So Kali, as we said, they represent our base instincts. Lakshmi represents the kind of splendor, what we call tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. So Lakshmi represents the richness of this universe, the splendor and beauty and all of that. And the third night is for Maha Saraswati, who represents the divine, the learning, and so on. So it goes 1 day at a time. First night Kali, then second night Maha Lakshmi, third night Maha Saraswati, and then fourth night is again Mahakali, then followed by Maha Lakshmi, Mahasaraswati. So this is how we do the 9 days of devotion. And I wanted to kind of come back quickly to what I think Diane had said about how during this episode of the 3 demons, etc., how at one time Mother could not sort of finish the war in a hurry, so she sort of materialized Kali. And so the story is that there was one demon who was called Raktabija. Bij means seed. And this demon had the blessings from the gods that he would never be killed, or the moment somebody tried to kill him, then from each drop of his blood which fell on earth, there will be more people with equal sort of strength like this demon Raktabija, who would come and attack this demon Raktabija with her sword or whatever. Then slowly, as the blood fell on the ground, hundreds of this demon came. Now, what is, first of all, the symbolism of this demon? The symbolism of this demon is that, our desires, our lust is never fulfilled. The moment we get something, we have more desire for more. So in a way, our kind of desires keep increasing. They never kind of quieten unless we follow the path of the divine. So at that moment, when the whole world was filled with many sort of replicates of Raktabija, the demon, at that point, Divine Mother materialized Kali. and Kali in her, what we call the severe form, the black one, like the one I think you were showing, Dan. But this Kali extended her tongue, to the whole universe, in a sense that every drop of Raktabija's blood now, she stopped from falling on the ground. She took it in her tongue, and very soon, no more blood fell on the earth, and then she finished this demon Raktabija. He died. So, I mean, I would also sort of say that do go back and read some of these stories. They are not just stories deep inside. There are really very, very great symbolic meanings which are lying. And as I said, the most important sort of meaning of that is that this whole life, our life, is a fight against slaying our own inner imperfections. And Divine Mother and of course Babaji is always there to help us, sometime in their severe form, sometime in their benevolent form, sometime in their loving motherly form. So Bole Baba ki jai.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful, Uday.
I remember one time I was asking Sastraji about Navratri. And I was saying, we do it here at the ashram, of course. And can you give me, more ideas or more instructions on how to do it? And he told us to follow the puja that's in the beginning of the older translation of the Saptasati, the red one that Multi did. And there's a beautiful puja there. So we do that every morning to whatever aspect we're honoring Kali's, Lakshmi or Saraswati. But then he said, and you should read the whole Devi Bhagavatam, which is 1,300 pages. And I just took it literally. And so I told everybody at the ashram, I'm going to be sitting in the temple all day reading. And I'm reading it in English, which, Sastraji knows it, probably knew it almost by heart by the time, he'd read it so fast, but he would sit in the temple most of the day and read all day. And so I said, everybody else needs to cover all the other duties. I'm just going to sit here. And I read it out loud, and I read it in English. And I was also doing the mantras and playing the harmonium and singing the arti. This is quite some, and actually there was particularly some people, and one woman, she sat with me all day and listened. So I really couldn't slough off at all. So anyways, by the end of that time, I had no voice left, but I was in such bliss. It was really, and I've never, we certainly do many things, and we read and give discourses and arti and chanting and the Devi Puja and everything, and Saptasati every day. But I've never carved out that time again for myself. And, that's the beauty of Navratri, is that it is a time we carve it out from what I think is so important in my life, and all my duties and everything, which is really, because when I find I don't have time to maybe do a newsletter or publicize some kind of fundraising thing, I find that the funds come in automatically because it's all up to Baba and Mother. It has nothing to do with what I'm doing, that I get into the delusion that it's important. So I think it's a beautiful time to carve out for ourselves. And it's really our choice. I've certainly been there in Haidakhandi and been in the temple practically the whole time, so much I could barely walk because my legs were so sore from sitting for 12 hours cross-legged. Go ahead, Uday, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of share something with all the people who are here. Something Shastriji told me once. Shastriji, as you know, read this this Saptasati every day. We may not be able to follow, but he said to me 2 years before he left his body that over this entire period, maybe 50 years by then, he said, I read this Devi Shaptasati every day. And that included 2 days when he lost his wife and he lost his son. He said, even on those days, I did not give up reading Shaptasati. Now, it needs great amount of kind of one devotion, and also I think listening to what your gurus have taught you. So I will end by a very short story. This is about Ram Krishna Paramhans, the other great sort of guru, and he had a student who came to live with him very young. And Ramakrishna Paramhans had told all his devotees, including Vivekanand, that they have to get up early morning, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then sit and do their japa, etc. And he would often go around and check if they were actually doing it or had fallen asleep. Now, this boy was all of 11 years old, but he was, of course, destined for a life of devotion. But when one day Ramakrishna came, this boy was fast asleep. So Ramakrishna woke him up and gave him a kind of mouthful that you have not come to the ashram to sleep. If you want to sleep, go back. So he gave him. Now, after that day, this young boy gave up sleeping in the night for the rest of his life. I can give you the name of this saint. There are many books written about him. His name was Adbhutanand. Adbhutanand means a really kind of strange, Adbhut, amazing saint. So this saint, Adbhutanand, did not sleep for the rest of his life. He gave up on sleep he would sit and do the meditation as his guru had told him. So that is also an important aspect, that we have to revisit our own practices, etc., and remind ourselves of what instructions we got, either directly or in our dreams or in our, like Babaji has his own way of communicating, and try to follow those because there is a part that we need to play and there is a part that they have to play, and these things have to meet seamlessly for our progress to happen. Bole Baba ki jai.
Jai Jai.
Christina, have you've experienced Navratri and Haidakhandi and Chilianola?
Once in Chilianola for maybe 4 days. Yes. However, for me, I personally like the havan experience. Even during COVID, I would burn my havan. I do havan every day. And it gives me a lot of peace and clears all the stress out. So I would listen to the on Facebook, the havan, and keep doing them, saying swaha here. And it would put me in such a deep process and clean me out. So personally, apart from that, I feel anytime I go to a Haidakhandi, it is like Navratri. Babaji is cleaning me, healing me, slicing my ego, and then giving me peace. It's the same thing. So it's just lesser and lesser. The first time I went to Haidakhandi, the first night, I wanted to run away. It was so overwhelming for me. So much pain was coming out. And then the second time was a little bit better. I could stay, and I could stay a little longer. Third time, I took my daughter, and it was miraculous, because for the first time, I could feel Babaji guiding me loudly. It wasn't a very soft voice, which means I was more empty to listen to him. So he was telling me what to do and everything. And after that, he's been guiding me. My lesson has been to obey without feeling embarrassed. Sometimes the things he tells me to do, I'm hesitant, especially when there's people, you know. He might just tell me to take a fruit. He told me once to take these bangles from a temple, and I was so nervous because there's so many people watching, and how do I take, you know? So that is my biggest, has been my lesson. I'm better now. So hopefully I will just listen to everything he says. And there's one thing that I wanted to share is all the 3 times I've attended your satsang this month, Babaji wanted me to attend. And the first 2 times he sliced my ego right away. And I'm so grateful. And today also I was sitting down and, you know, it was already time. So he really woke me up and asked me to connect quickly, you know. And he asked me to share something. I didn't, you see, I was still hesitant, you know. So that's when I texted you. And I realized I'm not listening fully. The moment he says, I want to be able to just obey. So yeah. Yeah, so what I want to share in connection with Divine Mother is that I've always experienced Babaji as my loving father. That's how I could see him. And it's always been the father. And just 2 or 3 days ago, I realized I'm not able to see him as a mother. It's so hard. It's certainly because I haven't had a good relationship with my physical mother. And my father I had a great relationship with my father. So it was easier to see him. And as you all were talking, is when I realized all along he was more my mother. He was always my mother. And I couldn't see it. Very few times he's been a strict father, even whacked me to teach me something. But he's always been my mother. Yeah, that's the realization I had today. Yeah.
Bole Baba ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Christina. When you come from the heart is when we all learn things.
Yeah.
So one small word from my side. You know, one of the purpose of this Navratri, and especially the havan that we do, havan is for the havan that we do is a havan for what we call Vishwa Kalyan. Means, you know, we are doing it for the welfare of the whole world. So there are different types of havans. There are havans which we do to achieve, you know, worldly things. But the havans which are done in ashram that we do are the sattvic havans. And the purpose of that is not only to lift ourselves, but to help the. It is said that all the things that we put in the havan with our prayers and with Om Namah Shivaya and all of those other prayers, they go up in the smoke and they envelop the whole world. And the positivity from that, you know, brings change in a good way across the world. So we are also participating not just to uplift ourselves, but we are participating in a larger kind of sort of a thing to uplift everybody around us. So that is also a spiritual sort of lesson, that journey is not only for ourselves, journey is also to take people along on our journey.
I feel like the daily havan is so important. And I'm so grateful that we can do one daily here. And it just becomes part of my day. It's like, and I know Pujara, you start with one each morning like Muniraji would. And happy to hear, Christina, you are. I think the more we have havans going on around the world, the more beneficial for the world at this, particularly this critical time. Hirman, I remember you used to do one daily at the Hawaiian Ashram. And I'm sure it was a very powerful time for you.
Yes, I think, and every day with Baba. I think in all the time there, I missed one day. And I don't know, the havan to me is like Uday said, it's not for us, it's for the purification of all beings and everything around us. And you could certainly feel that with Babaji. And there's something about that quiet morning havan that just resonates with me. You know, I love the big yagnas, but there's something about the havan in the morning that is, I don't know, for me, it's the most powerful experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I shared that before, same like Hiraman. The most auspicious times I had in my life was sitting at the havan, the early morning havan in Haidakhandi with Babaji, where you feel he was just offering to the whole universe. His gaze was like so deep and wide, and the peace and the waking up of the birds and to hear the river flow. This was such an auspicious, the most auspicious divine moments of my life, completely quiet in the presence of Babaji, feeling this immortal being doing something for the whole universe. Of course, that was the seed that planted in me, and then through Muniraj, he guided me to really do this every day. And also Babaji told me, said, Pujari, with a sweet voice, of course, later after work, you'll sit at fire. So that became also a reality. Now it's like, you can say, it is my discipline, but also my addiction. If I miss the fire, I feel my day is not okay. It's like, it starts with just the divine in this fire, to keep this connection. Whatever happens in the day, it doesn't really matter so much. Now all the wood gets burned anyway. So you just sit and pray, offer, and it's not, it's not for me. There's hardly a personal prayer anymore. Just the beauty of worshiping a fire. Same that you probably, Ramloti, have for the mother. Just the beauty of worshiping the mother. You don't want anything anymore. You're just happy to express your devotion. And we are so lucky that we had these seeds planted in us, mostly by Babaji, but also sustained by Muniraji, and these festivities of Navratri, how they nurture us, that we don't fall into big traps. No, we have to come back at least a few times a year in this Navratri, that however deep we might have fallen, we have to get out, and we have to again go through this process, and we pick up the threads again. But like the same for me, the havan is such a beautiful, even in a small way, it doesn't take me more than half an hour, but it's such a divine experience. It's like, yeah, the connection with the heart and with Babaji. It's a blissful source that you can try working there. Everything comes from the fire. All of creation came out of the fire. I don't understand these words very well, but I can imagine that Babaji didn't say it for nothing. It is it's something beyond the sun. It is how creation started. Hard to imagine. Only thankful that we are inspired to really practice something of the rituals and the fires and the Divine Mother, to learn to worship. And like so beautiful, Uday has this deep understanding. It's not happening outside there. It's all there for a purification process in us. It doesn't matter if it's jealousy or anger or lust. All these stories of the Devi Bhagavatam relate to those processes of how to purify our heart and come to peace. Where are we? Tarun, you always have some peaceful, wise words. Anything bubbling in your heart to share?
Oh, nothing today. I'm just listening. Thanks to meet you all.
Yeah.
I wanted to share that as you're saying that, when the pandemic started, it was suggested that this would be a good time to read the whole Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. And so every day I would read one of the chapters, and, we posted it on YouTube, and there was a group of people that would read it every day. And then every week we have a study group, and we're still doing that. We finally finished the 1,300 pages, and it was a wonderful experience. And they are all on YouTube posted on the Ramloti Wood channel. But what I wanted to say is that, just like you've been talking about, with each of the battles, typically the scenario was people would sort of become complacent and fall asleep, or the gods, and then the demons would take over. It's like desire, oh, I'll get more desires, then I'll be more happy, or I can be famous, or I don't have enough, I've got to get more. So all these kind of, like you're saying, the thoughts of I don't have enough, I've got too much, I need more, I'm the biggest person in the world, or I'm not good enough. All these different desire or thoughts start bubbling up, and then they take over. And those are the demons. And these are the wars that we kept seeing between Chanda and Munda and the mother, and Maheswara and the mother, and Shumba and the Shumba. But one of the things they're always saying is that one of the terrible things that happens when we let these demons take over is that the gods don't get their portion of the offerings to the yajna, to the fire ceremony. And they say that every single time, which helps me realize the importance of what we're doing in that half hour or whatever it is in our home, maybe in a little copper hovering kund or a bigger one, whatever it might be, that it actually is influencing the whole world. And they say it over and over and over. So maybe they say about 3 things, it's terrible, because they all go and talk to the Divine Mother and say, it's horrible, the demons have taken over, and now it's much darkness and negativity, and the gods are not getting their portion of the sacrifices of people. So I think taking that on a deep level has been very important for me. And I do have to say, in the morning when I'm in the temple and doing the havan, dressing mother, singing arti, sometime like yesterday, I counted 6-7 hours in there straight, no food, no nothing. It's like, and the time is, it just goes, it just melts into a wonderful time. So it just is like, oh, it's 1 o'clock already in the afternoon, and I haven't even thought about anything else at the ashram except the temple and the ceremonies, and I love it. And in the Devi Bhagavatam, the beginning of it, the Munis, the people who have some wisdom, see this Kali Yuga coming upon them in this time of great darkness and great distraction and great desires looming in the world and egos fighting, and pretty much what we see now. And they went up to Brahma and said, what are we going to do? We're scared about this coming on like this, the Kali Yuga. And Brahma said, where I throw my disc or whatever he threw onto the earth, this is where you should stay during the whole Kali Yuga and pray and listen. It turns out they listen, of course, to Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. It's called the Naimisa Vana. You can help me with my pronunciation, if anybody, because that's not my strong suit. But I often feel, particularly during Navratri, that we are in the Naimisa Vana for that amount of time, that we set ourselves in this place that Brahma said we would be safe. And we just imbibe the blessings and the stories and the love and the celebration of the Divine Mother. So I love Navratri. Looking forward to it.
I have a little havan story. In my home, the home I was in for 13 years before I moved here, I had a huge garden, 220 feet in diameter, a hexagon shape, and it had a havan pit my son built for me. And I would have havans. People would come, there would be weddings there would be women's groups, patients for healings, all kinds of things, teaching them about the Divine Mother. And then when it was time to sell the property, this beautiful place, people were coming and the people were arguing with each other. One mother came with two daughters and the daughter said she couldn't buy it. A husband and wife came and the wife was recovering cancer and she wanted to be able to plant in the garden and her husband said no. And then I had a shaman come to feel the energy of the land. And she said, oh my God, there's divine healing light coming out of your havan pit. She said, so that everybody that's coming is getting healings and people are healing things between each other. She said, you have to cover the pit just for a little bit. And I did that. And within 2 days, the property sold. So Ramloti, even when you're not having a fire in your havan, the energy of the Divine Mother is emanating out beyond the earth, out into the skies, out into the elements. And it's just amazing. And I would have little froggies who would live in there in the winter and I'd take them out in the spring. So Bole Baba Ki Jai.
Okay.
Well, when I walk on our land here, on the 101 acres of land, after the havan, I can always smell the yagya, the burning of the ghee and the samagri and the incense and whatever we put into the fire, the flowers and everything. And I just think it's Amrita. And during Navratri, because it's a big fire 9 days in a row, it's there always. So I just think it permeates at least our whole land. And when I smell it, it's like, thank you. I just say, thank you, Baba, for giving this gift of the havan. Which Baba said is the real form of the gods. Actually, we were just reading that last night in his teachings. The havan is the real form of the gods. Whatever you give to them goes directly to the gods. Then we have a whole nother discussion on what are the gods. But Tarun, you posted something. Can you just read it to us if it's appropriate? Because
Sure.
I don't know how to do these chats so well.
Yeah, no problem. So I just, I was doing some reading about yugas just to find out more details about, what is the cycle of yugas and where are we currently on that cycle. So I just shared some information that I had found maybe a year ago. I think right now we are in Treta Yuga. So there are 4 yugas. You have Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So if you see Kali Yuga in that JPEG file that I just shared, in 2082 AD is when we will, 2282 is when we will go into Treta Yuga. So now Dwapar
Yoga.
we are in Kali
Yuga. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. So, but these yogas have a very long period. So Satyuga is the longest one. That was at the time approximately when Ramchandra was there, and then when Krishna came, that was so that's how it went. Satyuga, Treta, Dwapar, and now we are in Kali Yuga. And in fact, in Devi Bhagavatam itself, we hear this story like what she talked about, Naimicharanyas, etc. So at that time only, it was said that now this Dwapar is going and now Kali Yuga is coming. So now we are going through Kali Yuga, and I think the days will become darker in a sense till the change will happen. But again, this is where also Babaji told us in no uncertain terms, again and again and again, that we are going to be in a world which will be full of turmoil outside, but we can create our own sort of tranquility inside by doing the practices that he had said, Om Namah Shivaya and many other practices. So we can have this thing, and only those who will uplift their spiritual life will survive through this very difficult period. Otherwise, either physically or mentally, it will be difficult to sustain that. And I think now, as we see what is going on around the world, I think his words seem so true. And he, I think, no day went where he didn't sort of warn us that the world was going to be more difficult, as because the period, this will also go away. But I think Pujari or Ramloti can recollect some of those. I've heard from many people that when devotees came, like Ramlota told us once that from Italy, that he has come to say goodbye, and Babaji will call him back again and say that when you go back, tell people that a difficult period is coming, the world will go through a lot of turmoil. But if you follow the path of divinity, then you'll be able to overcome this thing. So this is certainly Kali Yuga, and it will go to its own denouement, its final thing before we, again, the whole circle of life changes. And I think I see the evidence of that in everything from the kind of environment getting warmer, all these pandemics happening, the near world war situations. We don't know what will give, and it will get worse. But I think for those who are in the path of divinity, I think there is nothing to fear. I'm sure that we will survive well. Pujari, you have any recollection of Babaji's?
No, same. I know there is confusion that some say we are now in the Dwapar Yuga because we have electricity and it's like we are developing communications. But I also know Babaji only spoke, we are really in the Kali Yuga. And energetically, it feels like that. No, I have no much reference, but it's definitely, I was there in the time 81, 82, 83, when Babaji daily, especially in the beginning, 81, almost every day he spoke about that the revolution was coming, that the huge Kranti will come, earthquake will come, we have to take malaria pills because there will come viruses which won't stop. He has foretold all these things in a nutshell, but very intensely, that even around Babaji, oh wow, it was really, he scared the shit out of us. It was really very scary, his speeches. But that was also useful because there is no need for fear. No? He is the master of bringing up our fear, even now, in a world scale, through all these wars and turmoil going on, that humanity, we have to go deeper. We have to find another way of peace. Otherwise, it is too painful. And Babaji had said, rivers of blood have to flow. So, and even a candle would burn every 240 kilometers. Those kind of messages Babaji gave, it can get a lot worse than what we are facing at the moment. It is maybe not good news, but the good news is that this purification is absolutely necessary. If you want a more human civilization on this planet, it looked like we first have to go through an incredible disillusion, disappointment, the destruction of the way we have organized with these big powers controlling the world. This somehow has to fall apart, and then a new thing can be born. And I don't know if that then will be the Dwapar Yuga, but it doesn't matter so much. We are here in a, let's say, living in a world which is going through destruction, and where human beings are let's say, our destructive nature, our anti-God nature, our anti-humanity nature is coming up so strong, and it looks like normal that we shoot each other completely to destroy human life and to destroy the life on the planet in all its ways. No, it doesn't matter if we cut the forest or we make the sky dirty or the rivers dirty. We are misbehaving dramatically, and there, we have lost faith in that the politicians will fix it. So how this is going to be fixed is probably only possible by a very big destruction, and that we have to crawl on the floor again and from our nature do it better. Like every child wants to not destroy the planet and have a loving life on this world. So with Kali Yuga, it is like it's meant to be this way. They say we are now so far from this main solar point that life has to look like this, and this is always happening. And it is a learning process for us as human beings to understand the divine play and develop the inner dimensions and purification, that we can still see God in every yuga. The divine is there. It looks like, oh, we don't like it, but no, this is just as divine as the Satya Yuga. Only in the Satya Yuga, the human beings, they behave in accordance with the divine. Now we are struggling, we're going against the divine laws. So the world looks terrible because we as humans go against divine laws. But it will correct itself slowly, slowly. But this destruction, I think, is ultimately necessary. And Babaji, you cannot even say predicted. He saw it coming. And we just have to adjust. And he gave us a toolbox, how Uday said, how to behave in this age, that you don't have to feel lost or disappointed. No, the divine is very much, it's indestructible, no? And our soul is indestructible. The divine is very much there. So we have to keep going. It's lovely to see each other. There are many, many people, many, many teachers with a beautiful heart now. There's so many beautiful people on the planet with the great intentions. So, but it gets overpowered by some, how can you say, Kali Yuga, people who have to bring out the dirt of humanity. So, and destroy the civilization, and so we can create a better one, or if there is something as better, but a more human one, what Baba called upon us, and that's just heart by heart by heart. So yeah.
So the good news about Kali Yuga is that, in the earlier yugas like the Satya Yuga, Dwapar, Treta, to reach divinity for an individual, to progress on the path of divinity, you needed very, very hard penance for many years and had to do a lot of practices and so on. Sometimes, go without food and so on. It was a hard process and you had to really do it over many, many years. In Kali Yuga, climbing these steps towards divinity and liberation has become that much easier. The God always compensates for the difficulties outside. He compensates us with, some power inside. So this is what our again, that it's easiest to connect with God in Kali Yuga compared to any other time in all this evolutionary process. So I think there is a very hopeful, positive message that we can all climb much faster than any other period in human civilization.
Hirman, what's your take on all of this?
Well, I think, Pujari was saying about a light every 240 kilometers, I think. And Uday is talking about the Vishwa Kalyan, the blessings to the universe. And I think we become that. You know, we really become a light, and we become the havan. And wherever we go, we Vishwa Kalyan. You know, we just do our best. And of course, we fall down and we get up and we keep going. And I think that's what Babaji wants us to be, and what the mother is showing us all around is that no matter the troubles and the tribulations and that this world is still an amazingly beautiful place and filled with blessings, and maybe what Uday was saying is that the strongest steel is produced in the hottest fires, you know. So these fires of the Kali Yuga are potent, and yet inside us we have the metal to survive and excel, and through the tools that Baba's given us, and through the love that Baba's given us, and so we become the fire, and we become the mantra, and we become the light, and we do our best to share it with the universe and with ourselves. And something that really strikes me is that Joy said earlier about how Baba brought us home. And I think he brought us home so that we'd realize that this is all our home, and everywhere is our home. And when we have the mother and Babaji and this combination of divinity within us, when we're present with them, then we are home, no matter where we're at. Or even in, like Babaji said, that Om Namah Shivaya is more powerful than a nuclear bomb. So even in those places of destruction, we can still be home. Even maybe we don't even survive, but we're still home, and we're still trying to be the best that Babaji taught us to be. And so those things we don't ever have to give up, no matter what happens in any situation or any difficulties. We do our best, and we try to spread the light and be the light, and Vishwa Kalyan. I'm so glad that you brought that up, Uday, because I haven't thought of that phrase for a long time in words, but it is really what it's all about.
Thank you.
Mm.
And I think this is our opportunity too. I mean, that's also for me, the mother. It's like, this is the time. And Baba has given us the mother. He said, you know, I am the love. I'm the love. The mother is the love that I have for each one of you in my heart. And I leave you her. And so we do have her. And it's absolutely true. There's horrors going on around the world. And Baba did give us that. He said, until there's a change of heart. So it seems obviously that where we need to begin is our own hearts, and look at each time we start a war in our hearts with another person, our judgment, our unkindness, our selfishness, and keep doing the best we can. And I also love that part in the Devi Bhagavatam right at the end where it talks about how we take one step during the Kali Yuga. Mother and Baba are extra compassionate to us at this point, and they just take us into their arms and support and love us. So it's important to remember. And so it's a very poignant, I think, Navratri this time, that we remember that Mother is here for us. And who was it? Kartikeya was asking Lord Shiva, is like, what's going to happen to the poor people during the Kali Yuga? You know, it's like, this looks horrible coming up. And he says, I will manifest on the earth and teach. And we were fortunate to be with him, with Babaji, and teach the beautiful mantra of Om Namah Shivaya. And here we are with that as our teaching. And we have Mother. We just step forward and say, Mother, help, Baba, help. And their arms are there to help us and guide us. So I think for me, that's a great, great gift. And it also says in the Devi Bhagavatam, For the people, when we're in our sattvic state of love and compassion and sharing and realizing the divinity all around us, for those people, it's always the sattvic yuga. And for those people who are negative and, seeing only the ugliness all around them and judging and hurting and killing and trying to be more powerful, it's always the Kali Yuga. So in that sense, deciding how many more years we have or anything like that. No, we're here right now and hoping that our hearts, working on our own hearts, and obviously doing what we can to help the whole world. So it's a very special time in many ways.
And it's also that our bodies may drop, our bodies may not be alive, but we are always there, right? Who am I? I am that consciousness. So whatever be the wars, whatever be the state of our bodies, who we are is going to be the constant, never changing, ever luminous. So the realizing that is the path also.
Very true, very true. And I think that is one of the essence of our spiritual consciousness, that as we grow on that path, we start disidentifying with our physical body and identifying with what we call the Atma, the seer that sits within us. And once we can disidentify with our body, which is destructible, we realize that what sits inside us, the one which perceives, that is indestructible. That goes into the next life till we reach the final journey of spiritual realization. And that then it subsumes with divinity. We become part of the divinity. So I think one of the things that we all are trying to, I think, through many lives, I would say, but trying to achieve is this thing of not identifying ourselves with our body, but what sits inside, the Atma. So yes, absolutely, that is true, that when that realization comes, actually also fearlessness comes. We are not worried about destruction on this earth or something. What is sitting inside us is indestructible, because that is part of God. And to the extent that one of the sayings in our divinity is Aham Brahmasmi, I and he are the same. There is no, but we have to bring ourselves up to that consciousness for making that a reality. Bole Baba ki jai.
Jai, yes.
Sita, did you want? Oh, okay. Did you have something to say, Sita? I thought you raised your hand.
I didn't. I can say something though. I'm reminded of the Virgin Mary, and sometimes I find myself now sitting with you all and asking myself, why am I here? Because I don't enjoy so much spending time with the computer, and I cannot know why. I also know that I know I have to be here. I just follow my hands, and I know I have to be here. And I think also one reason is that there's that connection through these satsangs with Ashram in Creston that I hold very dear in my heart, and that mukti of the Divine Mother. And the Greek island where I spent most of my year, it has a very strong energy of the of the Virgin Mary. There's a very beautiful monastery there on the rock, and it said there's a very beautiful and powerful picture of Virgin Mary, and I feel connected with it. And there's a picture of it. I'm in Belgium for the moment, but I see a picture of it right now in front of me, of the monastery. And then talking to you, there is that link from there to you here now, to that mukti in the ashram in Creston, and also my place in this world, how to be in the service of that. So the work I do with people, working with people, giving treatments, that to be somehow of service of that care and that tenderness, and to give it somehow. May I am able to be empty enough to carry that love, let's say, undisturbed by my stuff, my personality and all of that. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a beautiful prayer for all of us.
And I have seen that there are some movements for big prayers to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and remembering her predictions at Fatima, which is interesting. The last time she appeared at Fatima was the day my mother was born, so that we always prayed the rosary at night. And so coming together in prayer in whatever form is so beautiful. And I have to say, as a mother and a grandmother, I think that's one of the things that potentially can scare me the most about destruction and war and things like that is, but what's really been coming to me with prayer and more practice is that, just like Uday and everybody Pujari has been saying, is Mohan, we're here forever. And my connections with my grandchildren and my children, my friends, people I love, will always be there. Who knows what parts we'll play if we move into our next theater production, but it will never change. So for me, that's sort of what I share with my children. I haven't shared it much with my grandchildren because I don't want them to be, we pray together for world peace, but that's how I feel. I truly feel that. And even when beloved friends are leaving their bodies, we've seen many and will continue. I know it's just the body, and we're all together. And we certainly have felt that enough with loved people. And of course, with our beloved Baba and Mother are always here, no matter physical form or not. So, helps me a lot.
I was talking yesterday about some of the most powerful experiences in my life. Was one that kind of fit together was when my daughter was born. When she was born underwater, and she first looked up through the water at me, and I was holding her, and it was, obviously indescribable. And also when my father died, I was holding his hand, and he had been off life support for almost 3 weeks and was only supposed to live for a day or two, and he just really kept holding on, and I just said to him, Dad, sometimes you have to be stronger to let go than you do to hold on. And he just the community leader, and he just squeezed my hand, and then within about 30 seconds he left his body, and there was just such a feeling of that, there's no end here, like you were saying, Motita. We're in this forever. And we're with Baba, and we're with the Mother, and we're with each other forever, and so, and we just do the best we can now, and leave it in God's hands. But don't forget to have our hands working at the same time. We can't just bypass everything that's going on. We have to really be out there making this world a better place every moment, and still inside of ourselves know that doing it with peace rather than with anxiousness, I think.
Yeah, was also a deep experience with Babaji when he scared really the shit out of us with all his prediction about the destruction coming. It brings up the fear of losing the body or losing our physical existence. And I think that's a good thing. And even now on a world level, we're going through a lot of that this fear of losing form, or changing form and destroying forms is so much happening that it brings out the mortality of the body. I had a similar beautiful experience with my father when he was dying, and he was in hospital, and I was sitting with him that day and night, and I had his hand in my hand on the moment that he was breathing his last breath, and it was such auspiciousness to see. First, I gave him some water, and he said, "The water doesn't taste good." And I said, "Oh, that's amazing. Okay, water doesn't taste good." And then he had his hand in my hand, and he, like, for 1 minute was breathing, and his hand went a little bit back, and I just felt him leave. And it was such a release for him and for me at the same time. I felt such a connectedness with his spirit that it's almost I left with him a little bit, and then I had to come back. It is so attractive to leave the body if you're not feeling well. He was not really feeling well, so he was happy to go, but he went in a very easy and beautiful way, which was really liberating. And that showed me a lot, that there is really no fear for that. I saw my father go with such an ease and beauty that it's almost inspiring to leave the body behind. And like Uday was saying, same with Mohan, this is what we also come to learn, that this body is just flesh and bones, and one day we have to leave it behind. But Baba pointed us, we are not this bodily thing, and at the same time take good care of it as long as you are here on the planet and serve me. But ultimately, the real freedom is if we realize that it's a temporary vehicle and we are the ocean. This bubble, don't take it too serious. Just let it go, and we're always in the divine hands. And the same, I think many people around the world are catching up to this. There's really an evolutionary jump happening, that this kind of wisdom and consciousness is being carried by more and more people, that we know this is just a temporary body, and not life doesn't end. It cannot end. No, this is Baba showed it will be eternal. So we are in this forever, if we like it or not.
We are a family and we'll remain together.
Yeah, but if we recognize each other on the other side, that's always the question. And there are points that spirits can come back and reconnect with us on the physical plane. But I'm sometimes wondering if I will recognize you, Uday. Like now, I don't see your face, but I see your name. So, but if you're on the other side, that will still be a big surprise if we disappear in consciousness and are ultimately happy there and feel the connection with everything and everybody. Yeah, no, it's hard to. That's another topic to bring up if people have experience about what it is to let go of the body and what is on the other side.
Okay.
But the divine reality is probably much more there than here in our ideas of separation, that we are different bodies in one that constitute one family. We are like leaves of one tree, only we don't realize it so much that we are always the whole tree. We really think I am that leaf and you are another leaf with another name. But we see through, no, it can't be true. No, we are really the whole tree. And this leaf is just this part of it. Yeah.
we work with babies a lot in our practice, and you just see with babies that they remember everything kind of, and then as they get a little older, it just kind of, then they're brought into this life more, and they let
Yeah.
it go and embrace this physical form, and then maybe we start to remember again. You know, we meet someone, we feel something, and then maybe that memory fills out again. You know, it's all just a continuous cycle.
Yeah, modern research actually shows that it's possible to recollect the past, and there are people who conduct the workshops for that. And one of the doctors was Dr. Brian Weiss, who wrote that Many Lives, Many Masters, and where he treated the patients because he was the head of the psychiatry department of the Miami hospital, and he treated the patients by making them to remember their past lives using regressions, the hypnotic regressions. And after he left the job, he is conducting the courses on that. So, and then the University of Virginia at Arlington, they have 50 years of research to back that up. So there is some amount of merging of spirituality and the science happening. Even in Crestone, Nada Carmelites was brought by the Center for Contemplative Research, Alan Wallace. So he is basically conducting the research on the brain when the people are meditating, and the whole place is becoming a spiritual research place with Dalai Lama's blessings. So.
Yeah.
So we're just about at the end of our 2 hours. Did anybody else want to share anything? I want to share that. So Divine Mother's Festival for us starts in 2 weeks. And so we will not be having satsang because it goes over 2 weekends. So next weekend would not be a satsang week. And then the next 2, which is the 2nd and the 9th of April, we will not have satsang because the Divine Mother Festival is pretty all-inclusive around here. But the following Saturday is Hanuman's birthday. And so that would be I think the 16th of April. And so we will have a satsang that day, and it will be on Hanuman. So it was suggested by a gentleman in New Zealand, I believe, that we do it. And I thought that was a great idea. And the timing seems to be perfect. And I asked Pujari that maybe we could even start with the Hanuman Chalisa and just meditate on that a little bit, as well as so many beautiful stories and experiences of Hanuman and what he personifies for us and what we learn. So there will be 3 weeks without satsang, and then we'll switch to the 16th of April. And of course, I'll let you know. So I think everybody here is on this list. So I was thinking that maybe Pujari, you could end with a beautiful mother song for us.
Okay.
Bring us all into our Navratri energy and love.
Yeah.
And there will be live streams of everything going on here. And I'm sure everything going on in Haidakhandi for spring Navratri, and many of the ashrams. Holland will have some, probably Italy. So probably you can tune in almost any time of the day and get a Navratri discourse or chanting or arti or Paduka Puja or Devi Puja. So In a sense, it's a very rich time for all of us, I believe. Just like Pujari said, much is manifesting and people are taking a lot of steps to spread the love of Mother and Baba throughout the world. So thank you all. Go ahead, Pujari.
Yeah, thank you, Ramloti. There we go. Jai Mata Kali, Jai Mata Durga, Jai Mata Kali, Jai Mata Durga, O Kali, O Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Jai Mata Kali, Jai Mata Durga, Jai Mata Kali, Jai Mata Durga, O Kali Durga, Namo Namah, 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 Jai Mata Kali, Jai Mata Durga, Jai Mata Kali, O Jai Mata Durga, O Kali Durga, Namo Namah, 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 Jai Mata Kali, O Jai Mata Durga, Jai Mata Kali, O Jai Mata Durga, O Kali Durga, Namo Namah, 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 Jai Mata Kali, O Jai Mata Durga, Jai Mata Kali, O Jai Mata Durga, O Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Jai Mata Kali, O Jai Mata Durga, Jai Mata Kali, O Jai Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Mata Kali, Jai Mata Durga, Jai Mata Kali, Jai Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Durga Mata Ki Jai, Jagadambe Mata Ki Jai, Om Sanavatu, Sano Bhunatu, Shariram Karvale, Tejasvinavadi Tamastu, Marutishare, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, Shanti Shanti Shanti. Saryakani Bhagwan ki jai, Ekdambe Mat ki jai, Sabakun ki jai, Satsantan ki jai. Jai.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you
to
all.
everybody.
Vishwa Kalyan ki jai.
Vishwa Kalyan ki jai. Jai. Jai.
Bless Navratri to everyone and blessings to the whole world. Bole Baba Ki Jai. Thank you.
Bole Baba.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ramloti. Jai Bole Baba.
Thank you.